If I leave her here, she dies. That was the only clear thought in Logan Reese's mind as the wind howled across Carsus Ridge, driving snow sideways like a wall of white knives. His heads-up display flickered at the edge of his vision, numbers glowing red against the storm. Core temperature dropping. Oxygen reserve, 9 minutes. Comms unstable. He should have been moving south toward the extraction corridor, following the last intact order transmitted before the retreat collapsed into static. Instead, he stood at the edge of a shallow crater half filled with drifting snow, staring at the outline of a fallen figure that did not belong to his side of the war. The cobalt armor was unmistakable even beneath frost, marked with angular insignia that briefing files had labeled Third Blade, Frontline Warrior Class. Silver strands of hair were frozen against her shoulder. One leg lay pinned beneath a slab of ice-crusted composite. Her visor was cracked open just enough for the atmosphere to bite at her skin, blue-silver beneath the storm. She did not look at him as prey. She looked at him as a variable. His radio crackled weakly. All units return to safe zone. Do not retrieve hostiles. The word hung in his helmet like a verdict. Logan stepped closer anyway, boots sinking 6 inches into powder that erased his tracks as soon as he made them. Her eyes opened, sharp and steady despite the cold. Leave, she said. The translator in his suit rendered it flat, precise. No plea. No threat. Just instruction. Logan knelt and brushed snow away from the slab trapping her leg, testing the weight. His oxygen display ticked down. 8 minutes and 30 seconds. The metal under the ice hummed faintly with residual heat from the engagement that had torn this ridge apart an hour earlier. He shifted his stance and pulled. The slab moved an inch. Then another. She did not cry out. She did not thank him. When her leg came free, she tried to rise and nearly lost balance. Logan caught her under the arm without thinking. You are wasting time, she said. Extraction window closing. You are bleeding, he answered, as if that settled it. He snapped a thermal strip from his jacket and pressed it along the seam of her armor near her ribs. Another went at her collar line. The red warning on her suit dimmed to amber. His dropped lower. 7 minutes and 40 seconds. The storm intensified, gusts rattling the cracked edge of his helmet. Why? She asked. It was not curiosity. It was assessment. Logan glanced toward the southern ridge where faint silhouettes of drones swept in disciplined arcs. Because you are still breathing, he said. He slung her arm over his shoulders. She was taller than him, heavier in armor, but she matched his steps as they moved north instead of south. There is an old survey outpost half a mile ahead, he said, pulling the map overlay through snow interference. If the structure is intact, it will block the wind. Half a mile will not sustain your oxygen, she said. Neither will staying here. They moved. Every 10 feet his suit vibrated with a low warning tone. 6 minutes. 5. The storm reduced the world to the space between their boots. When the outpost finally emerged, half buried against the ridge, it looked less like shelter and more like something the storm had forgotten to erase. Logan forced the manual override lever until the hatch gave with a groan. Inside, the air was still, bitter but survivable. He guided her to a support beam and diverted auxiliary power into minimal environmental stabilization. A thin line of heat bled into the room. His oxygen display dipped under 5 minutes. He unclipped the tank from his collar and placed it between them. Use it, he said. She studied him for a long second before connecting it to her armor. The hiss of pressurized air steadied her breathing. Outside, vibration rolled through the structure. Logan pulled the visor feed online. Multiple signatures. Disciplined formation. Sweep team. Not searching. Ensuring. They are not retrieving survivors, she said quietly. They are confirming none remain. The roof shuddered under a scanning beam. Logan reduced the heat output to lower the thermal signature. If they breach this place, I cannot outrun them, he said. And you cannot. You could signal your command, she replied. Claim detention. You would be absolved. His thumb hovered over the transmit key. Then lowered. I am already here, he said. She held his gaze, something shifting behind the precision. Among my people, she said slowly, protection of the defenseless predates war itself. It was the first hint that her disobedience had not been chaos but choice. The vibration outside intensified. Logan moved to the rear wall and pried open a narrow maintenance hatch half concealed beneath snow. Service conduit, he said. Connects to the lower ravine. 600 yards east. Your oxygen will not sustain that, she said. He checked the gauge. 4 minutes. It does not have to, he replied. They lowered themselves into darkness just as the scanning beam intensified above. The conduit forced them to crawl, metal ribs scraping against armor. His display blinked under 3 minutes. A faint mechanical hum echoed ahead. Maintenance drone, wedged and dormant. Kayla crawled past him, opened its panel, and connected a thin cable from its residual cell into his suit port. For a suspended moment nothing changed. Then his warning shifted from red to amber. Not restored. Stabilized. Borrowed time. It will not function again, she said, closing the panel. It already did more than it was built for, he answered. They moved on until the conduit sloped upward and ended in a grate fused with ice. Together they forced it open and emerged into the lower ravine, shielded by stone walls from direct aerial scan. The storm was weaker here. Above the ridge, silhouettes hovered in holding pattern. They believe the outpost is empty, she said. For now, he replied. They moved east along the ravine floor. After 100 yards, a faint oscillation threaded through the wind. Logan saw the shimmer ahead, a scanning lattice spanning the ravine's narrow mouth. Sentinel perimeter. Not to search. To ensure nothing left. Can you disable it? He asked. Yes, she said. But doing so will transmit my location. Would they retrieve, he asked, or correct? Silence answered. If I do this, she said, there is no returning to anonymity. Logan nodded once. Then let them know, he replied. She extended her palm. A controlled glow traced along her gauntlet markings. The lattice rippled outward and dissolved like mist. At the same instant, Logan's visor lit with a direct alien command frequency request. The storm seemed to pause. They are aware, she said. Logan looked at the open path beyond the ravine. Then let us give them something else to be aware of, he said quietly. And with both sides now watching, they stepped forward together. The transmission request pulsed steadily across Logan's visor, alien glyphs scrolling in sharp geometric patterns while a second signal from human command blinked in. Restrained urgency beneath it. He did not accept either immediately. The ravine stood silent except for the wind dragging fine snow across stone. Above the ridge, aerial units adjusted altitude but did not descend. Not yet. Kayla stood beside him, shoulders squared despite fatigue, her armor marked by frost and fracture but no longer flashing critical. If you answer, she said quietly, every word will be archived. Logan kept his eyes on the horizon. That is fine, he replied. He tapped both channels open at once. The alien voice arrived first, resonant and calm. Warrior Kayla Varen. Your life sign was presumed terminated. Confirm operational status. Kayla did not hesitate. I am alive, she said. I did not complete the final directive. A pause, thin but weighted. Clarify deviation. The wind eased just enough for the sky to show a faint break of pale blue above the ridge. Non-combatant presence confirmed within target zone, Kayla said clearly. Execution would have violated primary protection clause. Logan felt the human channel sharpen. Staff Sergeant Reese, a familiar command tone cut in, firm but controlled. Explain failure to comply with extraction order. Logan shifted his weight, boots crunching lightly against wind-packed ice. No failure, he said evenly. I identified a variable not covered by standing orders. Silence settled again, not hostile, not forgiving. Processing. Above them, the drones held position rather than advancing. The alien command voice returned. Warrior Kayla Varen, deviation contradicts directive but aligns with ancient protection doctrine. Further review required. Logan exhaled slowly, watching the thin fog of his breath drift sideways. Ancient doctrine. Protection clause. The words carried weight beyond battlefield efficiency. The human channel spoke next. Reese, you are instructed to disengage and return to friendly perimeter immediately. Logan looked at Kayla, then back at the ridge. Negative, he said calmly. Current position stable. Awaiting clarification on revised engagement parameters. There was a long pause on that line, the kind that suggested consultation rather than anger. Kayla lowered her voice, no longer speaking for command but for him alone. You are extending your defiance, she observed. I am extending the conversation, he corrected. The aerial silhouettes above shifted again, widening their formation rather than tightening it. The storm continued to weaken, as if the planet itself had grown tired of erasing them. Minutes passed in quiet standoff, neither side escalating. Logan's suit, sustained by borrowed drone. Power, held steady at low output. Kayla's auxiliary tank hummed softly against her armor. Then a new signal appeared on Logan's visor, this one originating from neither direct combat command but a diplomatic relay frequency rarely activated during active conflict. He glanced at Kayla. She had seen it too. They are elevating the review, she said. The alien voice that followed was different, older, carrying less edge and more deliberation. Warrior Kayla Varen, confirmation of non-combatant presence within your final engagement zone has been independently verified through recovered reconnaissance. The words drifted through the ravine like a shift in weather. Your deviation from directive is under formal evaluation. Logan felt something inside his chest loosen, though he kept his posture steady. The human channel responded moments later with equal restraint. Staff Sergeant Reese, hold position pending joint assessment. Hold position. Not retreat. Not surrender. Not reprimand. Just hold. The drones above began to withdraw in slow arcs, rising higher rather than descending. The sentinel lattice no longer shimmered at the ravine mouth. Kayla turned toward Logan, studying him in profile. You placed your standing at risk for a decision that was not yours to make, she said quietly. It was mine to make, he replied. I was here. The wind moved gently between them, carrying no ash, no smoke, only cold air and the faint scent of clean snow. Kayla reached up and detached a small insignia from her armor, cobalt etched with a symbol he did not recognize but understood instinctively as significant. She placed it in his gloved hand without ceremony. Among my people, she said, honor is not obedience. It is protection. Logan closed his fingers around the metal. It was colder than the air, solid and real. Above them, the sky continued to clear in widening fractures of blue. For the first time since the retreat fractured across the ridge, no one was aiming at anyone. The war had not ended. The storm had not vanished. But in the narrow space of a ravine where two soldiers had refused certainty, something had shifted beyond calculation. Logan lifted his gaze to the ridge line one last time and felt no triumph, no victory. Only steadiness. He had not won a battle. He had not rewritten orders. He had simply refused to let a wounded enemy freeze in the snow. And somehow, that refusal had become larger than the storm itself. They remained in the ravine for nearly 20 minutes while both channels stayed open in low-bandwidth standby, neither side issuing fresh commands, neither side escalating beyond observation. The storm thinned into drifting strands of white that curled along the stone walls and dissolved. Logan adjusted the power output on his suit once more, ensuring the borrowed energy from the maintenance drone remained stable. It would not last forever, but it did not need to. Above the ridge, a single alien craft detached from holding pattern and descended slowly, not in attack posture but in measured approach, landing on a flat shelf of ice 200 yards away. Its hull was sleek and dark, marked with the same cobalt insignia etched into the metal now resting in Logan's palm. Kayla watched its descent without tension. "They have chosen retrieval," she said. Logan nodded. Moments later, a smaller human shuttle appeared beyond the opposite ridge, maintaining equal distance. The symmetry was not accidental. 2 vessels. 2 observers. Neither advancing past the midpoint of the ravine. The diplomatic channel activated again, this time carrying both frequencies braided together. "Joint assessment complete," the alien voice stated. "Engagement zone confirmed to contain civilian presence at time of directive." The human voice followed, steady and deliberate. "Standing orders under review. Field discretion acknowledged." Logan felt the weight of those words settle into something solid. Acknowledged. Not praised. Not condemned. Simply recognized. Kayla stepped forward 1 pace, enough to signal readiness but not surrender. "Warrior Kayla Varen," the alien voice continued, "your deviation will be examined under Protection Doctrine statute. Return for formal hearing." She inclined her head. "I will comply." The human channel spoke next. "Staff Sergeant Reese, return to friendly perimeter for debrief. No disciplinary action pending." Logan allowed himself a single slow breath. No disciplinary action pending was not a medal. It was not absolution. It was space. Space for the conversation to continue beyond the ridge. Kayla turned toward him, the wind lifting faint strands of silver hair against the pale sky. "You may leave now without further complication," she said quietly. Logan looked at the 2 ships facing each other across the ravine and then back at her. "I was not waiting for permission," he replied, but there was no edge in it. Only calm. She studied him for a moment longer, then extended her forearm in a gesture more formal than the one in the conduit, less intimate than the hand she had offered in the dark. He met it with his own, armor to armor, a brief contact that carried no theatrics and no audience applause. Above them, neither craft powered weapons. Neither deployed force. The war still existed beyond the horizon, but here, for the first time since the storm began, there was no immediate intent to erase the other side. Kayla stepped back toward her descending transport. "Among my people," she said, "stories are recorded of moments when protection altered history more than conquest." She paused, eyes steady on his. "This will be one." Logan slipped the cobalt insignia into a secured pouch on his vest. "Make sure they tell it right," he said. A faint curve touched her expression, not quite a smile, not quite something else, but human enough to recognize. She turned and walked toward her vessel without hesitation. Logan watched until she reached the ramp, then shifted his gaze to the human shuttle waiting across the ravine. The wind moved gently now, almost quiet. Snow drifted between the 2 ships like a final curtain falling slowly rather than slamming shut. He began walking toward his own side, boots leaving shallow prints that would soon fade. No one fired. No one advanced. No orders were shouted across the divide. There was only the memory of a decision made in a crater of snow when one soldier could have walked away and did not. Logan Reese did not feel like a hero. He did not feel victorious. He felt steady. He had not changed the shape of the war in a single afternoon. He had not rewritten doctrine or dismantled command structures. He had simply refused to let the storm decide who deserved to live. And sometimes, in a galaxy that calculated value in territory and efficiency, that refusal was the most dangerous act of all. He stepped onto the shuttle ramp without looking back again, the insignia cold against his chest, and as the doors closed and the ravine disappeared beneath rising clouds, the sky above Karsus Ridge cleared just enough to let a narrow band of sunlight cut through the fading storm.